Okay, so I've been gone for more than a minute, and I'm back with the jump off. Little Kim style. I know, out of order. Out of order, Mr. Caldwell. Out of order. Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is my review. It just sounds so funny to even put this up, but this is my review for Queen Sugar season 5, episode 5 up till 9. So I know y'all mad. I know y'all are. But it just is what it is. It just had to be what it was. And I'm going to explain a little bit and then we're going to move on. We're not going to talk about it no more. We're just going to move on, okay? So, season 5, episode 5, really, it was not a whole lot going on. It pretty much covered the wedding. So we know that Darla and Ra are married, and I literally didn't. I watched it, and I was there. I've watched every episode, so I haven't gone anywhere. I just haven't reviewed. Um, it was a beautiful wedding. Her dress was cute. Her shoes were really cute. And that's basically what I have to say about that whole situation. Now I'm trying when it comes to Darla and that whole Raw thing. Y'all know how I feel about that. I just think she's just a problem, but she seems to be changing and they're handling it. Their whole situation, everything is going very, very well. Very, very well. And I'll say that. Um, so that was really it. I didn't feel like I had a whole lot to talk about. Like I said, it was the wedding. And I'm still a little skeptical, but okay. Beautiful wedding. Family was there. Beautiful. Um, we're coming off the heels of missing Hollywood. That was one of the big things that Hollywood was there taking care of everything with his mother because his mother passed and he was burying his mom and all that. But he did actually make it to the wedding. Um, and he just took his seat. Michael was actually standing in as the best man. So it was cool. Everybody was there. It was good. It was a really nice occasion. And that's that. Nothing else has actually happened. We have no interaction from the Landrys or anything like that. So this is where I kind of was with the story. We got at like a standstill with me review wise. So there's no drama in St. Joe's going on. And then episode six, seven, 6 and 7 and a portion of 8, a huge portion of 8, really started to cover the whole George Floyd situation. This is where it became a problem for me. It's just too deep and it was too much. And it was on a personal level, I just didn't want to deal. I didn't want to. And I thought it was just going to be the 1 week. Then it ended up extending the next week and then the next week. I'm just going to tell y'all right now, I apologize. If you can't accept that or don't understand that, I don't know what more to tell you. It was just too much for me. I didn't want to come down here and get talking about that. And that's what was going on in the show. There was nothing else going on but that. It was totally focused on the whole George Floyd thing, the unrest, the the whole looting and the outpour and all of that, and I wasn't doing it. I just refused to do it. Now I had no idea it was going to stretch out 3 weeks, but I've watched every week. I'm still on with you all. I'm right here with you on the story, but I ain't sitting talking about that. I'm not doing it. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna move on, and that's all that's to it. Now, in the midst of all of that, Charley has actually come down with COVID. Charley came down with COVID. In the meantime, Micah has actually gone off to actually be part of the protest. So she's by herself. And she ended up calling Davis. And Davis actually showed up. He showed up. He had to actually break the glass to actually get in. She was messed up. She was completely messed up. Y'all know, baby, listen, Rona don't play. Rona plays with no one. And we've seen Charley coming down. I thought it was stress. I was talking about stress, but she was having some stress issues anyway. But again, those are all things that helps along COVID. If you have, if you're stressed, stress weakens you. Stress weakens you. It plays all in with that, with your blood pressure and all that stuff. Those are things that Rona, she just eats at. And that's, I think, how they played into it, where it actually got Charley. It got her, and it got her down bad. Because I thought she was just having an anxiety attack. And here, and that anxiety attacks really do shorten your breath. Rona grabbed hold of our Charley, honey, and was giving her the rah-rah. You understand? So Davis comes, and Davis has been taking care of Charley. And this is the thing with that, okay? So we into 8 and 9, episode 8 and 9. We just want to kind of wrap them together, okay? Because it's like the end of 8, beginning into 9. Davis gets there, and he's taking care of Charley. And we see the whole progression of her getting better and all of this. He's dealing with the doctors and all of this and telling her, you know what, if we can't do this here, you're going to have to go to the hospital. And of course, nobody wants to go to the hospital because that's like, just that ain't the shit, okay? So there was a point where I think Davis was very comfortable, and risking it all. Because remember, we don't know, at that time we didn't know exactly how to deal with COVID, but he was doing what he needed to do. And because she's like, don't get close to me and this, that, and the other. He's like, look, it is what it is. Maybe they were still functioning as family, which is what they are. They were married. They got a divorce. They have a child. They are still family. They're still family. And he really did reiterate that and made her know that we are still family, period. We'll never be done with each other. We ain't laying in the bed with each other. We ain't doing nothing on that physical level like that, but I still love you. I know you still love me. We both love Micah. We are still family. And if you ever need me for anything, there ain't nowhere else that I would be. And risking it all, because he was right up on her. And honey, Rona she has no respect for anyone or anything. But he risked it all to make sure Charley got what she needed. Come on, Davis. But I think at a point, he was caught in the moment himself, and he was enjoying being with his wife and taking care of his wife and remembering how much he loved his wife. And they went back through what, it was like a time of reminiscence of all that she's done for him, all that she's been for him, all that she stood by with him, all that she endured with him. I think he's actually sorry, though he didn't voice it. But I think he is really sorry, and I think he knows the mistakes he made. And I think for a moment he was caught up in that moment. And now this is my thing. Once we seen Charley get better, and now Davis is getting ready to leave, Charley, she was a little confused. There was a point where she was confused, like, okay, what's going on here? And then there was a moment where she had got caught up. Women are a little bit harder to turn it off. Now, as Davis is going out the door, I think he has worked himself through what those feelings were, and he like, okay, the fairy tale's over. Now I go back to my life. Let her get back to whatever it is she did. I know I done screwed up. I ain't no hope for this. But there's this little glimmer with Charley that you could see all in her face and a little bit of confusion. Charley, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Though I think at this point they could actually be happy. The way he was moving about says that the growth, and we behind. Males are behind. We're behind the 8 ball. I think he's at the point where things could work, but there was so much damage done. that she ain't gonna be able to let it all go. So Charley, back up and leave it alone, sis. Leave it alone. Leave it. Leave it. Okay. Child, because I ain't got time to be dealing with worrying about Charley and worrying about Raw. Leave it alone. Anyway, so moving on. So in all of this is going on now, little Blue. Blue has gotten an offer to go to a school in D.C. It's an elite school in D.C. He's been accepted. Of course, Darla's mother has everything to do with that, but he would have to go to Washington and be there with her to attend this school. She's all for it. Vi ain't having it. Hollywood has been telling her, get at mind your business. At the end of episode 8, Vi told her, I'm not going to have it. I said, okay. See, this is where the problem comes. Because remember, she was the custodial parent. She was the foster parent, basically, to Blue, legally. Okay? Legally. And then she is actually, now, she's not anymore. You know, they've gotten themselves together, and her fostering is over, and they've legally regained their parentship back from Vi, but that don't turn Vi's parent off. Okay? So Vi is stuck in that space. She'd already told Darla's mother off. And you know, they were real good for a long time. She told her off. Girl, ain't nobody going nowhere with you, girl. Get on out of here. So there's this whole struggle back and forth. Raw's kicking it around. Darla ain't even for it. She ain't for it because it's more on her. She wants her baby with her. So that's, you know, and change throws her completely off. Completely off. So it's more for her than for Blue. Okay. Now, in the midst of all this, we dealt with police brutality, and then also Blue learning of all that police brutality stuff. So I don't want to go too deep into that, but he's had like bad dreams about it, things like that and all that. Now, at first he was saying, you know, when they talked to him about the school and thing, he was like, no, I don't want to go nowhere. I want to stay with you all. You know what I mean? And then he actually was going to pick up something for Darla out of her office and ended up seeing the letter and ended up reading the letter, and he kind of got excited about it. You know, so he kind of like pushed it. You know, he's playing that role, being that little grown-up little boy. You know, you're the only little boy in a whole family full of grown people. He has that little grown-up edge to him. And, you know, he's looking at his mom, and he knows that his mother is a loose cannon. He knows that change screws her up, and he don't want to be away from her because he's afraid of what it'll do to her, playing a role that ain't his to play. That ain't his to play. It ain't for you to worry about Darla. It's for Darla to worry about you, Blue. So this was the thing. So as they go forward, they end up, Raw was like asking different questions and just kind of kicking it around. He knows of the, you know, what this could do for Blue. You know, because his IQ test came back really, really high. So he really deserves the spot. But of course, his grandmother's influence helped him get into the school. But his merit didn't, you know, it ain't nothing to be sneezed at. He's smart. He's very, very smart little boy. So it really is in his best interest. It's in Blue's best interest to let him go. It is. Now, Hollywood is all for Blue getting whatever Blue needs. So Hollywood's on board for it. But he's like, you know, Raw, take some time and make the right decision. Vi is doing what Vi wants. Vi is sitting on the side of what Vi wants for her comfort level. Darla is doing what's good for Darla. Raw's conflicted. They haven't even talked to Charley because Charley has kept away from them the fact that she had COVID. So nobody has talked to Charley. We already know where Charley was set because Charley would knock heaven and hell over to make sure that Blue could have everything in life that Micah had, you know, without overstepping. Because if it was left to her, Blue would have everything that Micah had growing up. if it was up to Charley, but it would cause her to overstep and not let Raw be the man that he needs to be. But she'd move heaven and hell to give it if she could do it without overstepping. So we already know where she was set. Nova was against it. Okay? We already know what Nova's situation is. So Raw didn't make his real decision until he talked to Micah. He had called Micah, and Micah told him, the cons, the pros, and all that, and told him, he would definitely support him either way, but it definitely would be the best thing for Blue. It would be great for Blue. And Blue's smart to be able, Blue would make it. Blue would be able to decipher, this is real, this is fake. Blue would be fine. And Raw was like, okay. So they went and they talked to Blue and asked him, what would you really think about the school? Like, really, like, don't think about us. Just, what would you think? And he said that he really want to come. And you seen a tear drop out of Darla's eye because she knows she got to let him go. She knows she got to let him go. You ain't going to win the fight. You got to let him go, And he was like, he told, don't cry, and you could see he was worried about her. And she held it together. So I was like proud of her. I was like, all right, Darla, because, I was going to cuss you, girl. But it was really really touching. So they went ahead and they had their little Zoom meeting, and they had everybody on the phone or on the computer, all of the family, and Blue tells the family, baby, when I tell you that Vi was furious. Vi was furious. She started texting Raw while they were still on. Then them two had a conversation, and it was just ugly. It was so ugly. It was so ugly. And on Vi, you wrong. You wrong, baby. You are wrong. Completely wrong. She started the conversation wrong and out of order. She jumped on Raw and told him, you're not your father's son. Girl, how is you starting a conversation with that? You're starting in a place of disrespect. And you use manipulation and shame as leverage. You wrong, Vi. You are wrong. And he tried to hang with her. He tried. She told him, you're not your father's son. Told him his father would be ashamed of him. Then she told him he's breaking her heart. And then he, Raw is he's a little insecure. And he's the baby, and he's still got that thing. He's a little immature. Baby, he told her, and he said, he's not your son, on Vi. He's like, he's our son. You got to let us parent our child. But then where he got out of order, when he told her, you're not even a parent. Raw, goddamn you, Raw, you're out of order. She most certainly is a parent. And you made her be a parent. You and Darla. You and Darla were insufficient, and you didn't take care of what you needed to take care of. So she very much is a parent. And how dare you? How dare you? But see, this is kind of the thing that actually happens. Foster parents and adoptive parents, even if you are temporary or if you are steadfast the whole way through the child's life, you always seem to get that little shift and shaft, like what you did wasn't good enough or wasn't adequate, or you're like something extra. She's just as much a parent as you are, because the part that you didn't do, she did do. She did do. And some would actually argue that it's the worst part is the part she did. All the sleepless nights and all the worrying, she did. You ain't even got to your part yet. The worrying and the sleepless nights for you don't start until he hits puberty and his late teenage years. What you're doing right now ain't nothing but a slew of birthday parties and moving them about. You're in an easy range. So yeah, you out of order, pal. She very much is a parent, just like you are, to the same child. To the same child. And it was your fault. You the one that made her that. So you're out of order. Anyway, moving on, child. But that was wrong for using her tactics. And then she told him, um, you ain't what you're strutting and you're stomping. You ain't nothing but a boy yourself. I said, she tried to use his respect for her against it, but she didn't try. That's what she did. And then they hung up that phone, honey. His feelings was hurt like hell. Her feelings was hurt. They both. It was ugly. It was a conversation that them two should have never had. Them two should never have demeaned each other like that. And it's one of them things that you may never be able to come back from because you said that to me. How dare you say that to me? And that's how they both were. That is so. See, this is the thing about Queen Sugar. This is why I was absent for those many weeks because it gets way too close to real life. Way too close to real life. All that fostering and adopting and all that's all part of my real life. So it gets real tight, real tight. But that's the brilliance of the show. That's the brilliance of the show. It's what brings us back. It's what brings us back. It's terrible that it's actually going to go because they're so good at capturing these things, and the actors are just stellar. Anyway, moving on. So that's that. And then this last thing I'm going to talk about here, child, Nova and Calvin. So we've been going through, there's been this whole thing about the police brutality and all of that kind of stuff. Nova's been chasing this story, and she ends up getting everything she needs to talk to this young man. He was beaten by the police. He made a mistake. He was doing wrong. But he was just home on break from college. He was somebody with promise, and he made a mistake, and they got in trouble, and the cops pulled him, and they didn't go turn him in. They beat their ass. And he went through his story with Nova, and he was telling her, he really went into detail with it. And he was telling her, the last blow is the blow that broke my back, and he's now paraplegic. And she was saying to him, they were afraid, and they just, nothing ever happened to the police because, of course, they were afraid, and they didn't tell what they knew. And she's like, would you know who they were if you seen them or whatever? He's like, of course I would know. That it's the person that did this to me. I see him every night in my dreams, that did this to me. I know who it is. And he's like, you know him. And I thought that's why you were actually reaching out to me, was for that purpose. The fact that you thanked him in your book. God damn it, it was Calvin's was the one that delivered the deafening blow that broke this boy's back. For real, Calvin. And Nova's face. That was some damn good acting. You understand me? That's all I'm gonna say. And I'm getting ready to leave because I'm starting to feel some kind of way. But that last piece, girl, you need to be on somebody's award something for something. That was some damn good acting. We got it, sis. What you were trying to portray, excellent. We got it. And I do feel some kind of way